I hope connection doesn't go down. So, one of the things more beautiful that exists is love. Not the kind of love that everybody believes on, but a kind of love that is unique. And for me, that's unconditional love. When I started the journey, I had this 1 Corinthians 13 mindset where I understood that it was an essence and an energy that allows two people to correlate with each other based on an understanding and a commitment. When did I discover that I didn't know what true love was? It was simple. The moment that I realized that I was conditioned to always have to justify the truth because the people around me told me I was lying. So I became the type of person that when somebody says a lie over me, or used to say a lie over my character or myself, I will fight like the turtle upside down to defend myself. So I started looking into what unconditional love was, and I was indoctrinated with the example of unconditional love being putting your other cheek. So in my head, the love that I never received from others was the love that I had to give everyone for free. Nope. So I laugh about life and about the things that happen, not because I think it doesn't deserve respect. It's because I believe that all of us are a little kid that never understood love and wants to play marriage without knowing what it takes. So I took it upon myself to start the Battle of Love, the Awakening, because I wanted to understand unconditional love. And I thought that being permissive was unconditional love. And the truth slapped me in the face. Why? You cannot be present in a space where you need to justify or defend yourself of the things that trigger you. And when PTSD came in, I understood that it was two sides of it. It was my inner child that felt neglected when she was a little kid, not because her parents were mean, it's just because they were raised a different way. And I was raised in a house where you couldn't cry, but they would have told you why not to cry. Um, you would have say a truth in because I used to say, like, I was so naive that I was always saying the truth, but my truth exposed people. And then when I was exposing my parents in front of other people, oh, what other people are gonna say? So they had to say I was lying so they didn't look bad. And that's the fun part of all of this. If you do that to your kids, you're raising people that's never gonna be capable of having a relationship that is equally yoked or without toxicity. So I started looking at the patterns, and the only way that I could understand what unconditional love was asking the Holy Spirit and God to please show me the way. Because even though I'm not religious, I am spiritual. I believe that the hierarchies are not of this world, they come from the energies above. And for me to resonate in that frequency, I had to understand it. So I always looked at 1 Corinthians 13 that says, love is patient, love is kind and selfless, serving as, as a motive to all actions that you do in life. So I started analyzing. Okay, they say to put the other cheek. And I was defending the point. Like, this is the funny part. I was defending the point of indoctrination until I noticed that that was not the way. True love doesn't start outside of you. And I didn't see that in my behavior because I believed the lie. I believed I had to put the other chick, but I didn't understand the meaning of it. So I only talk from experience. I'm not a love expert. If I would have probably a successful relationship. But I understand now why it never happened. And it's very simple. When I feel judged or somebody says something that I believe is a lie based on my indoctrination in the past, I used to defend myself. So in the ears of others, it sounded as a justification, but in my heart, it wasn't. So I had to start listening to myself. That's why I started recording the Battle of Love, the Awakening. I started looking at my ego. Where was the ego speaking and where was the heart? Why? You only can you only can love from an open heart. A wounded heart will talk about pain. A wounded heart will talk about the fear of abandonment and stuff like that. So when I realized that the external forces were trying to control me, I understood also that that person didn't know what love was. They thought that controlling someone, having control over that person, or allowing themselves to feel in control of that person meant that they were in love. And I don't know if it was a real person or wrong person, if it was a hacker or whatever. I don't care who it was, honestly. I'm just talking about the situation, not because I want to give credit to anyone, because that energy is totally out of my system. I just want to actually talk about where did I go wrong in understanding partnerships and relationships and true love. So it comes to pass that I see myself in a space where I started becoming anxious of people misinterpreting my intentions. And I asked myself, why do you feel this way? I asked Abba, why do I feel this way? And something came to mind where I actually understood the word indoctrination and the church need restoring was something greater than what I thought. And the reason is that I was indoctrinated in Catholicism and then in Christianism, and both of them have a different concept of certain things. One doesn't believe in idols, but has idols all over the temple. The other one doesn't believe in idols, but has hierarchies of idolatry in the pulpits. So in my heart, that didn't make sense. So I started looking into myself and I said, okay, this is not the place to learn how to love because there's hate, there's fear, there's pain, suffering, and excessive manipulation of the words of Jesus that truly speak from love. So when I started looking at myself, and I thought that placing the other cheek was actually staying in places that I shouldn't have stayed, something that somebody said triggered me to go in a path of understanding, which was you need to love yourself more. I thought I was. In my delusional head, in my indoctrinated head, I thought I was. I thought I was being kind. I thought I was being nice. I thought I was being honest. But when I see what happened, I see how it looks kind of how do you call that? Um Love bombing. Why? Because I'm very passionate and I'm like a little kid, and when I discover something that I like and I feel excited about it, I give that something my attention. And I come naturally being myself. So I was used to express everything I felt, but I didn't realize one thing. How would that person know it's true if my actions didn't match my words? Why do I say this? It's simple. There is a verse of James 2 in the KJV, number 26, that says, "For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also." Listen to that again. For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is also dead. The body without the spirit. The Holy Spirit can only be embodied by those who understand unconditional love. And the reason why that happens is very simple. The Holy Spirit is the integration of you. It's your famous higher self. The Holy Spirit is the presence within you that loves unconditionally, but also doesn't waver. And why faith without works is dead is because you can wish upon a star to have things, but if you don't know how to keep them, how to cherish them, how to water them, they don't grow. So I remember I started writing a lot about the garden and whatever, because everything I wrote was a channeled message. So the knowledge was coming down, the downloads were there, the spirit was there, but the wisdom wasn't there. Why? Because when you defend yourself from a lie, you're not being stubborn. And one of the things about not wavering your faith comes with the knowing. And the knowing only comes from experience. And experience only comes from mistakes. So when I thought I was communicating my feelings, I was just communicating the excitement. But when I didn't understand the replies, being that they were a little mockery and other things in them, I was not understanding the dissonance of it. I'm not saying I felt abandoned, but I felt like a little kid waiting for something to happen, excited, that never happened, which means that I was trusting the energy, but never looking at the actions. And I laughed so loud because I'm like, I'm so naive, like a little kid, right? Hoping and waiting and wishing. And then I realized why that happened. When I was a little kid, my dad used to work for a company that, aside of having long hours, after he would have finished work, he would go out with his lovers, right? And he would not come home until very late at night. So I used to sit in the window to wait for him because at that age, I didn't feel secure until I heard the keys coming down the window. When I acknowledged that I was actually that little girl again sitting in the window waiting for something that was not promised, I said, "What are you doing? Why are you so excited if there's no actions?" So the fog started to hit. So I became like a little girl curious of what's happening. Am I right? Am I wrong? What's going on here, right? And that's when I decided to go further, deeper in, because I was opening my channel of energy to many people. Some of them were nice, some of them were nice with a intention behind it, and some of them blank. They were not nice at all. They acted nice, but they were not. So, as I said the other day, I don't care about the intentions behind it. I'm here to talk about what the epiphanies of the circumstances brought up. And unfortunately, we have to mention the circumstances so people can understand in case that they're going through the same scenario, they can get out of the loop. So when karma start hitting in a way, I didn't feel it as I created my own karma, because I thought that others were implying this harm on me. But when I started looking more into unconditional love and love itself and partnership, I realized that it's obvious that somebody's gonna disrespect you when you have no boundaries. So for me, love was a place where I could be myself and I can just express my love without expectations of reciprocity, not because I needed to create a scenario, but because it was what I was feeling. But I did not understand what it takes to do what 1 Corinthians 13 was saying. Patience is not something that is a one-way street, it's something that is a two-way street. If I don't have patience with myself, or I don't have patience to be in the right timing of things, then we're all going to go into places where the vibrations are not correct. Kindness is something that should be your flag, your standard. It's not something that you give to others only if it's convenient to you. Selfless means that you don't do it waiting nothing. You just gift your love with a smile, with a kind word, etc. So I never understood that the way I answered questions was defensive. I'm not blaming myself for everything that happened, just to make that clear. I'm just having beautiful epiphanies of my life and my actions that can help probably others understand what not to do. So, uh, it came a moment where I didn't know who could I be nice to and who I couldn't be nice with, because I exposed myself to places where doubt creeped in. And like a little kid, I made the decision to treat everybody the same. Like, just ignore everyone. I don't give a crap. I don't give a damn. I will ignore everyone. And it's funny because that was a little kid. That was my little inner child saying, this is the only survival skill that you have that I know that my body or your body's telling you to use, right? So even when the energies felt okay and things felt right, the environment where I wasn't. And when you understand sovereignty and the true words of the scriptures, spiritual gifts become nothing if they're not used for the right purposes. So I started looking at the church, trying to find answers in the church, and criticism, mockery, you name it, was there. Egos was there. I had an idea and I said, oh, you guys don't have a hymn. Do you mind if I write it? And I asked for permission to do a survey, and I dedicated myself with heart and soul to find what the people that they called the church felt about being in that place. One day, this new pastor that I didn't know who it was shows up and he asked me, who are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm new here. I just wanted to do this because I wanted to see how the church actually felt about the ministry so I can write a hymn, because I noticed you guys don't have one. I didn't know who the guy was. I knew he was a pastor. That's it. Um, I worked with that survey for more than 2 weeks until I had it all together. I worked in the song and I created a beautiful song for that temple or that community. And when the song was finished and I had it in my purse, I get to mass, right? To the teachings. And I discovered that this pastor was the music minister, right? He was in charge of the ministry of music. And for my surprise, he stood up and started singing this home sound, which is something from the temples of Buddhism or Buddhism. And he started making this om noise where everybody felt, obviously, om is a very powerful spiritual thing, right? So everybody started feeling it, and everybody started like feeling the warmth in them and whatever. And then he starts singing a little piece of a song. And as he noticed that everybody was following, obviously, you set the body to be in receiving mode because you used a Buddhism chant to get them in the trance. Everybody received it because you had a hierarchy in music. And then he sings this part, and when he finished singing that part, he actually says, I think we have found our hymn. I looked at him and I'm like, God, this is not happening, right? Mind you, It was what, 1 week after I think I spoke to the guy. He knew that I was like for a few weeks working on gathering what the church felt was the love of that place. And I wrote the most beautiful song. And just the day that I decided to show it up, he comes up with that. In disbelief, I went to his wife and I said, "Hey, by the way, I noticed that the pastor did this, this, and that. I was actually working on that. You know that, right? Because we spoke 2 weeks ago about it and we spoke last week and you asked me how it was going. And I said that it was going to be done for this week. And I just wonder if he wants to partner with me so his song and my song can become one." "Oh, I don't know. You need to talk to him. He's the one in charge of music." And she left me like, ignored me. I didn't take it to heart. I just noticed the manipulation. I noticed the ego and I noticed the ill intention. He was scared of losing that hierarchy. Why? I don't know. Maybe because he has been in that ministry for more than 7 years and he never thought about doing a hymn. And this idiot that just walked one day, well, not idiot because I'm not an idiot, but this person that just walked one day said, "Oh, there's not a hymn, let's do it." Because I think outside the box, and probably he felt like that was his job and took it back. Totally get it. But that was a full egotistical move. So I only did not found true unconditional love in the temple. I found ego. And I discovered that that person was following me in all of my Facebook, Instagram. I think it was here in YouTube and everything. And one day I speak to the pastor and I said something and I commented to them that I was having a situation when I had a person that was stalking me. And he mocked it, right? Preaching in the pulpit. He mocked it. So I decided to write an email to the temple, to the ministry. And I explained to them that there was a channeling from Abba that was coming directly to them about something specific. And when I get the reply, I get a mocking email, kind of trying to make me doubt where my prophecies came from. So I always talked to Abba, and Abba told me not to go to that place until I was ready, and I didn't understand why. So I waited until Abba gave me the green light and I went back. And the day that I went back, they were not expecting me. This lady had a very bad headache. And I am a healer, so I know exactly she had a food intoxication. And I knew how to heal her. So I asked her, "Would you mind if I help you? I do know how to heal you." And I see somebody saying, like, with their head, no. And I told her, "I just need to actually do a pressure point right here and you'll be okay." From a sudden, she just stood up, left, like she was scared of me. That's why I regularly don't speak about my gifts, because a lot of people that do not know the true spiritual gifts, they're scared of what they don't know because they don't have them. They have devotion, but they don't have the gifts. And I had the gifts, but I didn't understand the devotion of the unconditional love at its fullest until now. So outside of all that happened, I was also mocked that day by the pastor in the sermon. And when I got home, I didn't want to do anything with a hothead. So I gave it a few days, I did my prayer. and scripture came up, and Abba told me exactly what to say, and I wrote exactly what he told me to say, and I just left it there. No need to reply, no need to reply to the reply. Just left it there because that was not my home. You cannot feel welcome in a space where when you try to learn from them what the Bible was and you ask questions, you were mocked. You cannot learn love in a place where you tell them that you are being mocked, you're being stalked, and you're scared, and they laugh in front of everyone just because they think that not being scared means full sovereignty. And that is true, but the way you're teaching it, it's not love, it's ego. And the reason why I became a person that never went to that temple anymore was because I asked a person, it was a very loving person, why he felt that church was his place. And he told me that the first day that he went there, they asked him to come by the pastor, and they told him to, I don't know what exactly they told them, but the story is that he ended up sitting by the lap of the pastor, and the pastor was petting him like a dog. And he's telling me this story, humble of being himself. And I'm seeing it from the outside. I'm like, how can hierarchy believe that that is submissive? That is denigrating. And why is it denigrating? Because you're making somebody be below yourself to acknowledge his humbleness when you can see his humbleness just by looking at his eyes and the way he speaks of love and the way he speaks of God. I was bedazzled. That's my word. I was bedazzled. I could not believe that a person with such a big and beautiful heart was humiliated in a way no human should be humiliated. And the fun part is that maybe it's not that big, because he said we only that at the end they told him, oh, you have a very submissive heart. And he asked why, and they said, because I asked you only to sit here, I didn't say how long, and you have been sitting here for more than half an hour. Don't you think that there should be a moment where you should have stopped that? What type of teaching is that? I couldn't see it as something loving. So I started looking at myself and I said, what am I doing that is not in communion with the love that Christ did, which was totally the opposite? Not getting someone from the church to come to my feet, but him going to wash the feet of other without hierarchies. So that was the moment that I stopped believing in the temple. I stopped believing in the community because the people were not wrong. The church was not wrong. The indoctrination the church has, it is wrong because it's allowing these things to happen. And that is not okay. So I didn't want to be combative. I didn't want to throw pearls on the swine like the Bible said, because I started understanding certain things. But in my personal life, I was still doing the same thing. And that's why the epiphany came. Why are you sharing with people that is not ready to understand this, your wisdom? And why are you getting mad when they don't understand you? And I said, that's the spiritual ego that I was speaking about. My spiritual ego combined with my inner child wound made me defend a passion, and that is idolatry in a certain way. So I said, I need to step back. I need to study all this, because if I want to live a healthy life where peace is my ground, right? I'm the type of person that, for me, receiving someone home is having open arms and just allowing the home not to be the stressful place where the things from the outside just burst in that home. For me, is like, here I am, my house is welcoming you. It's clean, is this, is that, and it's clean energies, and this is our safe space. This is my church, is my temple, it's my home, right? So I started looking at how this home was. And I started seeing that I don't see the world like other people, because there's things that I don't condone that others believe they're okay, based on what I've learned from the scriptures, not indoctrination. And that's why it never made sense to me. So when I start looking into my heart and I start seeing that there was a dam, there was something holding every emotion inside, I started understanding that I never knew how to have a conversation that was not confrontational. And then I learned that I had PTSD, which it didn't work. It didn't help. So little by little, while I was recovering from the PTSD, I didn't take it like it was karma hitting me. I took it as it was part of the lesson I had to learn. So I detach from my old beliefs, and I can embrace the true belief of what love means, right? So the reason why I say the other day that the only mask that I was wearing was a mask of understanding is because I was still learning, and the invitation was a path to learn together. It was never a path of who's right and who's wrong. It was a path where two people can talk about beliefs without having to argue with themselves, but the indoctrination and the ego were there. And obviously, there was a dissonance of cultural beliefs, or I guess personal patterns that didn't match. So even when we can see beyond the veil, we also have to see within our hearts. This side of me, the one that is speaking today, is my true inner self. I don't judge, I just speak. I speak with truth that hurts. Not because I'm judging anyone, but because I discovered it in me. And the only way someone can understand what not to do is the person that did it all wrong, telling the story. Not to make it a cycle of toxicity, to make it a beautiful experience in the path of Abba, in the path of light. So there were some people that were conditioning their love with an entitlement to my time. And in my head, I was just being nice. But then there's an addiction that comes with the expectancy that I didn't know I had. And I learned when I was sitting at the window and I acknowledged, hey, you're that little girl waiting for Papa to come home. So I'm very, very, very discerning of people based on their energies, and now I learned how to see it based on their actions. And I never questioned why I get people that are unhealed, because I knew that probably as a healer, I had something to heal as well. What I questioned from the whole entire dynamics of experiences that I had was, what am I doing when I'm expressing love that it's sounding as a free game? Why did I say that? The way that I was expressing love was from a pure heart, but it had indoctrination to it, which leads to entitlement. And the people that were trying to express whatever they weren't trying to express, because I don't know who's who, and I at this point I don't care. Not because I'm cold, just because I truly don't care. um, I learned to find those ripples and integrate them and love them and accept them. Not because I want to be better than anyone else, just because I want to live a life where I feel free to be myself in this energy and not feel or allow others to take advantage of that energy. Because it's an energy that not everybody has. Because not everybody sees the world through the eyes of Abba. They see the world through the eyes of indoctrination and the eyes of their experiences. So I remember when I became like very, very passionate about defending another person that was not even caring about myself, I said, wow, I did abandon myself there. Even though if I warned people based on my visions and my premonitions and my prophetic dreams, they were never going to understand I was saying the truth because of the way I was acting, because of my own wounds that were hurting the situation, and because my inability to accept who I was in the indoctrinated version of life. Why that becomes so beautiful? Because sovereignty means so much. It's not just an armor of God, it's a place where you feel home because you don't need to fit in anywhere. You don't need to be validated by no one. You don't need even to be acknowledged by the rest. You're just you, happy, joyful, and in love with you. And that's the only space where you can reach that level of understanding who you are and what you bring to the table. Because people live thinking that what they bring to the table is more valuable because it has a more, I would say, monetary value. I don't care how much money people has. I care about what they're doing with that money to help others and how they make their money. If it is in a loving way or is it in a sinful way? Not because I want to characterize people under sinners and saints, because it's errors and people that live under the light. But we are humans, and I understand that every one of us has a flesh that impulses us into doing things based on conditioning. I don't know who needs to hear that out there. I don't know why it's a repetitive subject in the past few days. I don't even know why I had to express it, because I don't have a need to be heard, because I hear myself and I know who I am. But it's beautiful that someone out there can feel that too for themselves and know that security comes from allowing yourself to be artistic in every kind of way, original in every kind of way, but also learn respect. when I noticed I was acting like the bullies, only one thing came to mind. What if what I'm doing against whoever person, I'm doing it against the wrong person? And why I couldn't see was because of the actions of people and the reactions of others. So disassociating myself with the scenario was my best bet. It was my best bet because you cannot give what you don't have. You cannot. You cannot have a love or understanding of another person if you don't understand yourself. And before I kept on hurting people, I did a service not only to myself, but to others. I removed myself from the situation. That brings me to the next subject, and we're going to close. Arguments. If you have arguments at home, there is a saying in Spanish that says, para pelear se necesitan dos. To have an argument, there has to be two people. Being sovereign in your energy and knowing yourself allows you to stay calm when another person is saying a lie about yourself. Because if it is a lie, why do you have to defend or fight a lie? And I never saw it that way because I was raised in a place where I had to raise my voice in order to be heard. So I thought that defending my character was the way to show that I was not lying, and literally understood the game behind it was all about making me get out of my frequency so people can actually have access to my energy. And that stopped a while back, and they keep on trying, but this time I'm not alone. This time I have a full army of spiritual beings that know who I am and what I'm here to do. A full army of elders that know that it's the time for this world to understand what true love is and what Christ means, and what that specific walk of humbleness it's needed to restore the church. We are the church. You, me, we are the church. The church is not a temple. The church is not a building. The church is not your ministry. We are the church. If we are not treated as equals, there is no church, only indoctrination. If we are treated as lower than, that's not love, that's conditioning, and that's indoctrination. If we're not loved for who we are, that's not love, that is conditioning. People who disrespect another, and trust me, I did it when I was triggered. People who disrespect another from free will, not from confusion, not from a space of being fogged by the games or disrespect another because they think they're better than another, a person that has to compete with another, is a person that desires to be like them. That's why I always said, I don't compete. I don't compete not because I think I'm better than anyone. It's just because that's not who I am. But I did learn how me trying to help others sounded like I was a beggar. And I'm not no beggar. I may try to make people understand where I come from, and they may assume it's me begging. But if saying the truth is to beg, when and where in that truth I said that I'm willing to accept less than what I deserve with my actions, with my staying in places where I knew at a certain point I was not well received, by staying in the places where mockery was the way to confuse me or defend their own stand. I once was curious to know the truth. Now I don't care. Not because I cannot forgive, I forgave. Just because people need to understand, like I did, how to love themselves before they can ask anyone to love them. Hope that helps. The church needs restoring. We're going to continue to talk about that, and I just hope everybody has a great night. Love you all, and sending blessings your way.